we are working on a segment that is called That Job Rocks. The idea is to help parents and children understand different career options that children have in today's world and what the reality of each of these is. So, from entrepreneurship to alternate careers like music, dance, art, we're trying to get them introduced to all these types of job options with experts in the industry so that they get the real picture. Because normally what happens is when we choose a career path, our parents tend to be a little apprehensive or afraid because they don't know what to expect. And today's segment, what we're trying to do is talk about entrepreneurship, considering that we currently are in a very startup environment. Everybody has a startup nowadays. Startup. Hello?
Hello, yeah.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. We're trying to get children introduced to different career options that they have with conversations with real experts from the industry so that they get the real picture. It shouldn't be some sort of a fantasy that, I want to become a dancer, I want to become an artist, I want to start a business. They need to know what is the real picture behind it. So that is why we are having our talk today. So I'd like to welcome you to our show. For those who are watching, Mr. Ananda Rao is the Global CEO and the founder of Infomo Global. Can you tell us a little bit about your company, sir?
Yes. So we have created a digital marketing ecosystem solution for telecom carriers and large publishers so that they can directly interact and engage with Google and Facebook.
Okay.
For monetization.
Okay. So it is, tell me one thing now, with a company like this, now you are in Australia, you are, I think, in Singapore as well. Okay. Why?
Yeah, head office in Singapore.
It is also in Singapore. So tell us why you got into this business. Is it because digital marketing is the thing today, or was this always something you thought would happen?
Look, from a personal perspective, I have always believed in the power of disruption and the value that could be delivered through disruptions. Now, digital marketing is ripe for disruption. If you look at digital marketing as a market segment, some kind of market segment, completely dominated by only one solution called GDN stroke programmatic, Google Delivery Network stroke programmatic. When the power of an entire ecosystem is resting on only one solution, it is ripe for disruption.
Right.
Because there's always another alternative way to do it. So I purposely chase this segment. Actually, I am not from digital marketing. I am actually a mechanical engineer.
Okay.
But it's the opportunity to disrupt.
Can you explain disruption to me? What do you mean by disruption? Can you explain the term disruption?
Let me give you a simple example. Much before you were born, when we used to travel, we used to have something called a suitcase or a big luggage. We used to go to railway stations or the airport. There would be somebody to carry it. Okay. Then somebody decided to invent something very simple. Wheels for that suitcase. Just in front of our eyes, the entire industry went through a disruption. Today, you can never buy a suitcase without wheels. And what has actually happened? People are carrying their own luggage. It has become more convenient. That's a classic example of what is disruption.
Okay. So, sir, when did
disruption? Disruption is very simple. Disruption is very simple. It is all about questioning why this and why not something else, and to see if something else is better than the status quo.
So in digital marketing, for most people, when we look at digital marketing, we only think of certain uh, certain apps that are available or certain methods that are available. So how do you cause disruption using digital marketing? How does that happen?
That's what. See, today, if you look at digital marketing, there are two main stakeholders. There are the advertisers at one end and the publishers on the other end. By publishers, I mean somebody who's got a website, somebody who's got a mobile app, somebody who's got some digital publication, right?
Hmm.
The entire digital marketing is run by one process called the programmatic, which is a completely technology enabled, impersonal technology middleman in the story. Now, what has happened as a result of this, and it's extremely efficient because it has got artificial intelligence, it has got machine learning, it is connected, blah, blah, blah. But the net result of this is the publisher who is actually owning the property, who has spent money getting the users to come and use content, has been completely marginalized. There's no control over pricing. Whatever the system determines is the pricing is the pricing.
Correct.
In the days of old, somebody who, let's say, for example, you were Z TV or Sun TV, or you were a Hindu or you were an Indian Express, you could go to the advertiser and tell them the value of your masthead or your property and why you should advertise and what will happen if you advertise in the right-hand corner of the first page, so on and so forth. In the digital world, everything has become a commodity.
Okay.
Now, can we give back that power to the publisher? That's the journey.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So how did you start this journey of an entrepreneur? What made you want to become an entrepreneur?
No, it's not just about, see, actually, it's not just about being an entrepreneur. It's about delivering disruption, delivering change. You can be an entrepreneur even if you're employed. Entrepreneurship doesn't really mean, you got to start something on your own. You can actually create new things where you're working too, do things differently. So the whole idea here is, what is the relevance of your role and what can you deliver that is different to somebody else? So I have been at this for many, many, many years.
So would you say
I'll give you one example. I'll give you an example. One evening we were having a get together at home where there was a documentary about the Indian IT. This is going back in 1999. You were very, very young then. But in 1999, Indian IT had just gone seriously big. That was driven by a problem called the Y2K, which was the anomaly of the year 2000, right? And many Indian companies became very, very big. And there was a documentary on ABC television called The Indian Cyberspace, where they were showcasing different stories of enterprises that have become big. There, I came across the story of a company called Infosys. Infosys, at that point in time, had just listed in NASDAQ, and they had come up with a very specific model called the global delivery model that could completely change the way IT is performed inside an organization. Now, I'm a mechanical engineer. I've got no idea what is IT, but I could see what they could actually do. So I actually sent Mr. Narayan Murthy, who was then the CEO, a complete business plan of this is really what Infosys can do in Australia. Give me a shout and I'll make it happen. Ended up starting Infosys here as a one-man band, and we spearheaded the complete disruption of the IT across Australia. That's really what I'm talking about.
So where does this mindset come from? I mean, everybody is not like that. Like you saw something just completely not connected to maybe your background, educational background, or probably what you were doing back then, and you saw an opportunity. That is a certain mindset. How does that develop?
That comes to something called the calling of the heart.
Okay.
everybody is designed for a purpose, and my calling of the heart is to change things.
Okay. So
That's really what it is all about.
and where did this thought come from? Was it something that you were conditioned, or did you see that there is a lot of that you had a lot of power as an individual to make a change? What was it that made you believe that yes, I can also make a change? Because that is what every entrepreneur is trying to do. We're trying to bring some business which will change the world, that we hope will change the world. Where did you get this bug from?
Look, I mean, I have been doing this for a long, long time. I don't know from where. There is nothing specific about what I'm talking about. There are things you can read and learn. There are things you can, see and learn. But the question to actually deliver value to
Okay.
wherever you are, that is the fundamental starting point. It's called being relevant. You see, being relevant is the most important attribute in professional life.
Hmm.
If you're not relevant to your enterprise,
Hmm.
if you're not relevant to your peers, if you're not relevant to your boss, if you're not relevant to your customer, you have no role to play.
Hmm.
And if you want to be relevant, it is up to you to say, can I do things little better? Can I do things little differently? So the
Okay.
idea is about differentiating. The idea is about creating value. It starts like that.
Hmm.
And then you feed it. That's your calling of the heart. You
Right.
feed.
Right.
See,
And being in Bangalore, what I've seen is that there have been so many startups in the last 5 years, and very young people starting it. They're probably just out of college and they've just started a
oh,
business.
no. Actually, there are advertisements that are being shown in television, which
Mm-hmm.
says it's about to, I don't know what this company is, but I'm just giving you what I saw, and it was so horrifying. There were a couple of people fighting outside the door, and the parent is telling somebody, hey, those are investment bankers fighting to fund my child who has just learned how to make an app.
Hmm.
Very, very wrong message.
Yes.
That is really the problem that we are facing today. Is we are conditioning our children to become square pegs in round holes. Now, a square peg in round hole is not a happy situation either for the peg or the hole,
Yes. True.
right?
True.
And it starts from childhood. Let me take your own example.
Hmm.
When Nupur was 2 years, 3 years, the parents were so happy about everything Nupur did. But the moment Nupur went to a school, it was not about being happy with what she did. It was about how she compared with everybody else.
Hmm. Hmm.
So now what happens? Nupur by default likes, let's say, for example, social studies.
Hmm. Hmm.
Social studies has got to do nothing with mathematics. She's got her strength in social studies. But just because she scored little less in mathematics, the entire focus of the school, the teachers, the parents, and everything else becomes mathematics.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
what happens? This is under the fallacy that if you prop up mathematics, automatically those areas of strength will bloom. It doesn't happen that way. You got to feed your strengths. This is where our education system is missing out right from day one.
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
are creating a whole bunch of misfits
Correct.
who have been pushed to do things that doesn't appeal to their heart. You see, the most important thing is it has got to appeal to your heart. It should be a personal legend. I don't know
Hmm.
whether you have read a book called The Alchemist by
I
Paul
have.
Saylor.
Yes, I have.
That is really what I'm talking about. Everybody has got a personal calling.
Hmm.
The environment that we live in must be conducive to
Hmm.
make that person, first of all, aware of what the calling is and then encourage.
Hmm.
And luckily in my own personal situation, I was given a free right to do what I wanted, thanks
Hmm.
to the forward thinking parents I had at that point in
Hmm.
time. So this is how I've turned out to be happy at the age I am in.
That I think is most important. I think is most important because even in my own peer group, I know people who are stuck in jobs that they hate, who want to branch out, but they don't have I don't know, they don't, right now they're probably comfortable or they're afraid, you know. So what is it that parents can do, whether it is entrepreneurship, like you said, entrepreneurship can be even when you are working in a job. Okay.
Correct.
So what can parents do to encourage this mindset in a child? Because there is a lot of fear that they put in the child, like if you try to break the system, you'll probably fail, you'll probably make mistakes, you'll probably have this, that. There's a lot of fears that they put in. What can they do to avoid that?
See, first and foremost, the parents must come out of their own constraints and their own experience.
Hmm.
You see, I am an engineer. I'm trying to mold my child to become an engineer is a wrong approach.
Hmm.
Everybody is different. As a parent, it is your job to, encourage the child to excel in what the child wants to excel in.
Hmm.
Only then the world will change. Otherwise, you're trying to force fit the child to a artificial set of norms.
Hmm.
And that will leave a very dissatisfied journey going forward will be completely dissatisfied. You
Was
know,
Infomo your first business, or was there any other company, or were there more companies that you started? What was your first business, as to say?
my first business was very. I actually left India in 1986 to pursue my masters in Canada, and I actually ran a business of posting. What do you call that? Brochures
Hmm.
into post boxes. So I used to prepare. I had employed a set of people. We would go to pizza parlors, get the brochures done, and then we would go and that was my first business. That was driven more out of the necessity to survive. But yeah, I mean, look, it is not about running my own business. It is about the change.
Okay. And
Oh,
when you started this, was so how old were you when you did this? How old were you?
I was married with a kid, so I was somewhere around 26, 27. I
Okay.
believe in taking risks to the maximum.
That is something which I really want to talk about, taking risks. Taking risk is something that I do not see a lot with my peers, but I see it in your generation or my father's generation. I see that they are willing to take risks, they're willing to make mistakes. What is that one thing that differentiates the two generations when it comes to taking risks?
It is the it is, what shall I say, the failure of fear, the fear of failure. I
Mm.
think predominantly it is the fear of failure, right? The world, unless you learn to conquer that and say, if not this, something else can be done,
Mm.
you will always have shackles, and you will always have working within constraints.
Okay.
So, um, see, that is really what I like about something called the alchemist, the moment it is driven by your heart and you're truly passionate about doing something, there is a sentence there which says the entire world will conspire to make you successful.
Right.
So it comes down to that passion.
Mm.
So that's really what the game is about. It is about first and foremost the need to be relevant.
Mm.
You have to add value,
Mm.
and you got to do that on a very consistent basis.
Okay. So the bottom line is, if you want to keep your business successful, you need to learn how to add value. You need to
Correct.
so how do you constantly build yourself to be able to add value? What should I do as a person?
You look at what you're supposed to deliver.
Hmm.
At a very fundamental point, you look at what you're supposed to deliver and then say, can I do it better? Can I do it quicker? Can I do it differently? Can I measure myself? And every day it is like a religion. It becomes it, you have to ensure that you are better today than what you were yesterday.
Okay.
Now, every job I'm not talking about, the simplest things I'm talking about. Every job every process has got deficiencies, right? It is up to you to find out, what are the constraints in the equation and see what you can do to remove those constraints. And this happens every day. Like, for example, you're traveling 2 hours a day to work. What more can you do during those 2 hours? That's really, and it comes down to certain habits like reading, like, uh, following your heart. I mean, once you want to deliver a change, right, it is driven from inside. I have a very simple formula. Okay, I'm old. I can tell whatever you want. Okay. I got a simple, I call it the 5P formula for success.
Okay.
The first P is passion. Okay. Passion is something that comes from within the heart. You cannot really, that is your calling. Okay. That is your personal legend. You want to do this. Now, if your passion is coming from the heart and not forced from looking at something, like, for example, you see Jeff Bezos and suddenly you say, I want to become Jeff Bezos. That, I'm not talking about that kind of thing. I'm talking about passion that comes from within the heart. The moment it comes from the heart, everybody can feel and sense and participate in that passion. That is the first P. Because if you don't have passion, within 5 minutes, the other person will know that this is just very peripheral. When I go to a sales meeting, I don't sell. I don't sell at all. I mean, I actually make people buy because of the passion, because it is coming from the heart.
Right.
That is a very, very powerful thing, because it requires you to completely believe in what you're talking about. You got to get up in the morning thinking about it. I'll tell you, I mean, we in the business plan that I had submitted to Mr. Narayan Murthy, I had very clearly told him in that plan, if you don't do Telstra is the largest telco in Australia. Okay. If you want to become a system integrator of any significance, you have to be a strategic partner to Telstra. Otherwise, you're a nobody in Australia. This was at least when I did it, right? So I had clearly told, that is all my mission. I have to bake into Telstra. There's nothing else. So I would get up in the morning thinking about Telstra, go through the day thinking about Telstra, go to bed thinking about Telstra, and every day, it was my 53rd meeting with Telstra. I got my first $10,000 job, and that was 19 months in duration.
Wow.
But when we broke Telstra, today Infosys is the largest system integrator inside Telstra. See, that is driven completely by passion. So that's the first P. Okay. The second P is planning. I want to be the president of America, but so what? If you don't have a proper plan to do it, it'll go nowhere. Now, planning is where that passion goes from the heart to the brain. Now, brain is a very, very, very powerful piece of machinery in the hands of every individual. It has got nothing to do with what kind of education you had, what kind of environment you're in and all that. It is your own tool, and planning is a meticulous activity, because if you don't plan to succeed, you have written your plan for failure. Those are all, ad nauseum, these words have been quoted, but that's reality. So planning is where you say, hey, if I were to chase this dream, what are the things that needs to be? So planning is the second P. The third P is preparation. Preparation is a very, very, very powerful, is a much needed thing. See, when the two armies, the Kauravas and the Pandavas, went in for that battle, the main thing was the preparation. Just a simple thing. How do you feed that enormous army? Requires preparation, right?
Correct.
Now, preparation is a multifaceted challenge. You got to be physically prepared, mentally prepared. You got to be financially prepared, and you got to be prepared to face that important word called no.
Hmm.
You got to be prepared to face failure, because failure is written in any journey. No journey from A to B is a straight line.
Correct.
It is always got a door closing on your face. But if the door closes on your face, you must be prepared to enter through the window. If the window is slammed shut, you got to get in through the chimney. See, that is really, really the preparation part of it. That is the third P. The fourth P is perspiration. Believe me, there are no silver bullets. Just because you write an app doesn't make you a millionaire. Success comes before sweat only in one place, that is the dictionary. Everywhere else it is, planned hard work. If you are not ready to perspire and do the, run the gauntlet, nothing will happen. So that's the fourth P. The final P is the most important. It's perseverance. Because no is the simplest reptilian response. Reptiles, they can either fight or flight, right? So saying no to a proposal is the most easiest thing for any investment banker.
Right.
But you got to persevere. And that's what is the challenge. You see, this entire thing is all about so if you really identify these 5 P's in life, and then you say, look, I am actually going after this. The entire world will become one harmonious orchestra helping you along.
Okay.
That's the essence of it.
That makes sense. So we'll just review the 5 P's. So first is passion.
Passion, yes.
Second is planning. Third is preparation.
Perspiration. Perseverance.
This is something which I think most people, because today people are starting businesses so early. They're just out of college. They've just, or probably like you said, now they're trying to push kids who are still in school, so they don't even have time to do all of this, and the reason parents are probably pushing them is we always see the end result. We saw Mark Zuckerberg, he made Facebook, he became a millionaire. So and so made a Zomato, they became a millionaire. We are seeing only the end results. So if I were to talk to a parent and talk to them about their child becoming an entrepreneur, what should I tell them to prepare for? Or how do I tell them to push their child in the right direction? What should a parent do?
The parent must not push. The parent must encourage. See, this is really where fundamentally there is a problem.
Correct.
Right? Where the parent must not push. Because the moment you push, unless you're in complete sync with what the child wants, that's a different issue, but you don't. So you have to give the child the necessary environment for them to experiment and for them to learn, for them to fail, for them to relearn and move on. So, if the child is excelling in something, my advice is better concentrate on the strength than prop up the weakness.
Right. Absolutely.
You can take a horse to the river, you cannot make it drink.
True.
Fundamentally.
True.
And in order to satisfy their own egos, somebody was asking this was before your time. There was a very big encyclopedia company called Encyclopedia Britannica. Okay, which was a very fancy knowledge of works. And somebody was doing a research on why parents are buying that encyclopedia for their kids. 90% were buying it so that they are mentally satisfied. They have bought what the kid may need. It is not about what the kid needs. You're with me?
Yeah.
So it is their ego, their wants, their desires. That you gotta get rid of that. I mean, you brought a child to the world. You got to give it the space to grow. You got to give it that's really at the fundamental part of it is a square peg in a round hole is not a happy situation for either the peg or the hole.
Hmm. Hmm.
See, for the square peg, there is always a square hole. For the round hole, there's always a round peg. It's a question of the fit.
Yeah.
And you got to do this. I mean, how many parents put their kids through song and dance without understanding whether the child is really interested in that or not?
Hmm.
Why? Oh, if my daughter performs on the stage, I have my responsibilities as a parent. I have trained my child. It's got nothing to do with you. If the child really wants to succeed in life, teach her basic life skills. The fundamental life skill in being in the professional world is all built around being relevant.
Hmm.
Okay, you got to be relevant to your team, your boss, your employer, your customer. What does that mean? That means you need to understand what your job is, what exactly are the responsibilities, and then you fine tune. You
Hmm.
have to question. See, unless the children are provided an environment where they can question the status quo and say, can we do something better? That has got to be conditioning all the way through.
Okay. And if suppose once a child is grown up, once he or she has finished college, they decide to start a business. Parents say, "Okay, go ahead." And like you said, failure is inevitable. We cannot. There is no success without failure. Absolutely, that's what I know. Because failure is where you learn. So suppose a parent says, "Okay, you do this, you try this for a year, and if it fails, you're going to do what I want to do." What are your thoughts on that? Because a lot of parents do that. I'll give you 1 year, try it. If it doesn't work, you're going to do what I want you to do.
No, but why can't the parents say, on the other hand, I have given you the basics. It's up to you to go and find your personal legend. It's up to you to go and find your call.
Hmm.
Why do you want to mother the child after the child is prepared for life? I fundamentally don't understand that at all. I mean, why should the parent actually dictate? Even after graduation, I can understand in kindergarten, I can understand, but even after graduation.
Hmm.
So my submission is very, very simple. There is something called the calling of the heart. Encourage the child to understand what that is, because that is something the child only knows. It's not known by anybody. You got to give it the environment and the encouragement to understand that. And that comes, somebody is good in sports. If somebody is good in sports, there's a reason why that person is good in sports right from the very
Hmm. Hmm.
beginning. That's the calling of the heart. Encourage that. That way, you are creating a set of champions in whatever fields that they can be in.
Hmm.
Now, everybody can't be an entrepreneur. Everybody can't be a leader.
Hmm.
You understand?
Yes. Yes. Of course.
But everybody can be relevant. Everybody can deliver change.
True. True. That is true.
Everybody. So, those are the fundamental views I look at.
Now, my question is, do you think everybody is able to actually find their calling? Can everybody be trained to find their calling?
You can't, you see, if given the proper environment, everybody will discover what is their purpose in life.
Hmm.
Given the right environment. If the environment is not there, how do you know? You're always a square peg in a round hole. That's really what I'm coming to.
Hmm. Hmm.
If every person is a champion in their own right, it's a question of the society, the parents, the society, the environment to bring the champion out of individuals. And that requires there is no forcing. There should only be encouragement. And till the calling is understood, the child will do multiple things.
Yes.
You got to be prepared as a parent for that. You can't say, he did that, he did this. No, he's trying. He's trying to see where he can succeed.
So you're saying that let the child do and fail till he or she is able to find that one thing that drives them.
Absolutely. That's the only way. You see, unless you find that personal legend, Nupur, you will not be a happy person. You go and talk to any, today, you talk to success stories. You talk to a successful employee like Satya Nadella, or talk to a successful entrepreneur like Jeff Bezos. They've all found their personal legend. That's what is the game. And that requires, see, the fundamental training or schooling is all about making sure the child learns the right values to live in a society. I mean, look, I am a mechanical engineer, but I'm just giving you, I started off in sales, then I became a boiler engineer, then I left overseas to pursue mathematics. Then I went into becoming a stress analyst. I went into electronics, then I went into IT, and now I am in digital media. That was my calling of the heart. I looked at an opportunity. Can this be changed? Okay, what does it mean? So I have actually changed my entire thinking to chase my heart. But that's why I'm passionate at this age. I mean, who cares? I mean, I'm happy.
I think that you're right. Even with the ad that we're speaking about, where the investors are fighting about what do you call that, funding a child's app or whatever. I think from what I see, there is a big problem where people think only financial success will bring you joy.
That's not correct. I mean, I'll tell you, I have made millions. I've also stood in the street with 200 suitcases being, completely wiped out. Money is not the important thing. Money is a byproduct. The question is, you go to bed, put your hand on your heart, and then you say, hey, was I a better person than, did I do something good today? What have I got to get up tomorrow morning to? That is the happiness. That is what drives people. Okay. You got to have a reason to get up the next morning. Otherwise, your day will start at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever it is, because you don't want to get out of bed. On the other hand, when you go to sleep, if your next day is planned, that means you're living your life. Yeah, the world is changing. Some people are changing the world. Some people are adapting to changes. Some people are just, floating. They don't know whether, where they will land. The question is, do you want to be in the change the world category or the adopter category, or you just want to float around? That's up to you.
So this is something that we have always spoken about whenever we are discussing about entrepreneurship and all of that. When there's any breakthrough product, let's say Facebook, or there's any technical advancement, whatever it is, when there's an innovation, it is usually attached to somebody from the Western part of the world. And Indians are the ones who are probably bringing those ideas to life. Why is it that innovation lacks in our country? Why is it? And it is not the truth a couple of centuries ago or years ago. It has become this condition today. Today, there is definitely a lack of innovation among Indians. Why is that?
No, it is not that there is lack of innovation. Okay, it is the ability to package that innovation is something that is missing.
Can you explain that a little bit?
If you got an idea, how you package that idea to an investment banker is what makes or breaks it. to be realist, to be realistic in the space that we are in. That ability to communicate, ability to, ability to draw a picture of the possibilities is done a lot better in the West than in India. In India, what happens is, by inherently, entrepreneurship is very ripe in India. A guy is buying 20 kilos of groundnut and then retailing it on the street. So everybody is an entrepreneur in India, right? But the entrepreneurship is driven not through the possibilities. The entrepreneurship is driven by what can be done now. That's the whole thing. I mean, see, if you think of Facebook, I'm just giving you an example. Facebook just didn't happen like that. Facebook made money after 9 or 10 years of existence. But what the founders of Facebook did was they actually persevered with that picture of possibilities, making investors put money time and again. That is really where but that generation is now gone. I mean, today I'm just taking through digital marketing. There are a lot of issues around privacy. When you go online and you click on an ad, you have no idea who's taken your details. Now, this privacy issues is driving a transformation across the industry, all over the world. But what is the alternative? There is no alternative. That is really, my way of thinking is there should be an alternative. And the alternative must be driven by the guys who own the properties. And that's really what has been our focus. See, there are multiple books about being innovative, multiple books about changing the paradigm, changing the rules of the game. Kids must be encouraged to read autobiographies. Every big person in the world became big only through failures.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Now we got to emphasize, these are the learning lessons. So that's really what the game is about.
So now
in my view,
you just said some time ago that like people who started Facebook, they got investors to put money, they kept persevering. Those people are gone. That generation is gone. What are certain skills that you see lacking in the new generation, Gen X as we call it, XYZ, whatever it is? What are the skill sets that are lacking in us?
No, the fundamental problem that I see with the new generation is there is a desperate need to get rich quickly.
Correct. Right.
That's a myth. It doesn't happen that way. I'm telling you, there is no silver bullets. Okay, unless you are a market maker. What do I mean by a market maker? You have designed or created something that is completely new, which is there to solve a big existing problem. Those kinds of inventions are very few in between, far and few in between. Okay, unless you don't belong to that. Like, for example, let's take COVID, the vaccination. The vaccines for COVID. Okay, now the guys who actually did that, invented those vaccines, are going to become super rich very quickly. But that's not to say everybody can. That was a specific situation, correct? You have to see now in front of our eyes, lots of things are happening. I mean, like let me take the simple thing called the mobile phone. The mobile phone has wiped out Xerox machines. The mobile phone has wiped out telecom. Although it is telecom, the apps inside the mobile phone are competing with voice and data from telecom carriers. The camera has been displaced. Today they are making meetings obsolete because you can do meetings on the mobile phone.
Correct.
So one simple device, you see, is disrupting so many things. So the question is, every time there's a disruption, there's also an opportunity. What can you do? So you have to, everybody can do this. They have to look at what they're doing today and just ask one simple question: how can I do this better?
Makes sense. So when you're looking at, how can I make this better, or what should I? There are certain, like you said, reading, hobbies, or maybe appreciation of art. These are things that children should be exposed to, probably to think in different ways.
Correct.
We need to.
Correct.
And there is a lot of emphasis today, not emphasis, but there's a lot of talk about critical thinking, analytical thinking, and those kind of skills. But above and beyond that, what are some basic skills that children need to be able to think critically, to be able to think analytically? What are those life skills that they have to develop first?
Fundamentally, they should be allowed to enjoy what they're doing.
True.
Fundamentally, okay? If it is not a happy environment, there is no feeding the strength. There's only propping the weakness. There is nothing, there's no formula or a recipe here. The key is, if you encourage a child who's sprinting, and is sprinting because there is passion to sprint. If you provide the child the environment, the learning, the experience of other sprinters and so on and so forth, and encourage, not force, encourage. If you do this, this is the kind of difference you can make. The child will become a better sprinter.
And how can teachers and educators contribute to this process?
See, fundamentally, I think we have to get out of that process where we are measuring one child against other. That's the fundamental starting point. See, what happens when you are measuring one child against other is, you are not measuring their strengths, you are measuring their weaknesses.
Makes sense.
So the environment should be designed in such a way. I don't know, I don't have an answer for this, but I'm just thinking out loud with you, is where you have to provide the child the environment, the facilities, the training that will say, but the child should be free to change the direction. That's fundamental. Just because you invested time and effort in taking the child to sing, and she one day says, no, Dad, I'm not interested in singing anymore, you should not feel bad about it.
Correct. That's true.
Correct? That's the child's call.
Correct.
So you'll have to, as a parent, as a teacher, you have to make sure that you're providing the right kind of guidance, encouragement, but you should never push. You should never force.
And once a child is into the actual professional market, let's say the child is in the so-called marketplace, so to say, I wanted to help me understand, is there a difference between the Indian market and a global market for entrepreneurs? Is there any difference?
Yes and no. Yes and no. You see, in the Indian market that we are talking about, the main entrepreneurship is only happening at, in a big way, is only happening at, I would call the technology level.
Hmm.
Elsewhere, entrepreneurship is happening at multiple different levels.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay. So when we talk about entrepreneurship, you got to again reclassify what exactly are you talking about.
Hmm.
It is everything tech. It is fintech, martech, everything tech, 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 tech. That's not the entire entrepreneurship. I'll tell you, there's a company here in Australia. What they do is they come to your door and tell you, listen, you got a open roof. Why don't you allow us to put solar panels on your roof to generate electricity? Now, as a householder, you will get cheap electricity, but then there is more electricity left over.
Hmm.
We will place it in the market and give you money for that. So in other words, you're renting your roof to make
Right.
money.
Right.
Look at that idea. Look at that idea. It's got
Hmm.
nothing to do with technology.
Hmm.
You understand? So people must think like this. That's when the world will become a fun place to live in.
I agree. I think, like you said, no, people want to become rich very fast, and whatever we watch nowadays, whether it is a sitcom or whatever it is, there's always that one billionaire who has sold his company for billions. So I think parents think or kids think it's very easy. I'll make an app, I'll sell it for millions.
It is
So,
actually, if you really do your research on the number of apps that have failed,
hmm,
okay, yeah, I would say the success rate of an app is 0.01% or less.
I think parents should watch this and listen to this because,
No, really, I'm telling
yeah,
you. And you see, what is the process? You sell, the app can do something. Okay,
hmm,
so you sell the idea to an investor. The investor will put money.
hmm,
You develop the app. Once you develop the app, how are you going to distribute it?
hmm,
You put it on Google Play Store or on Apple Store or whatever it is. Then who's going to drive the adoption?
hmm,
Something everybody is suffering now is something called an app fatigue. There are too many apps,
hmm, hmm,
right? In fact, companies that are doing very well now are app cleaner companies. They will come and delete apps that you have not used in the last. That's really how the thing is working. You create a website. If somebody doesn't come to your website, what's the problem? What's the thing? See,
correct.
if you create a website and your content is not relevant, see, I come back to this
Yes,
word called relevancy. If it is not relevant, it will never succeed.
true. That is true. Now, sir, some time ago you said I have made millions and I've also been on the streets with my suitcases. You made that statement. So, can you tell us what was like a really low point as an entrepreneur for you, and how did you overcome it?
Low point, I got cleaned out. I mean, zero. You can't get any lower than that. It was I think probably 1 or 2 inches below ground. There is nothing. There is no, but it was a, I listed a company and global financial crisis hit and the company went belly up. I had put all my wealth into that company. That's
Hmm.
it. Finished. But then, you at that point in time, you question yourself: was the idea wrong
Hmm.
or was the timing wrong?
Hmm. Hmm.
In my case, it was glaringly evident that it was the global financial crisis and nothing wrong with my idea. And what is interesting in people who invested in me before continue to invest in me, and today whatever I'm doing is at least, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know whether it's the oncoming train, but at least I can see a light at the end of.
Okay. And how old were you when this happened? The reason I'm asking is people think that they cannot, they have to be young, very young to be able to bounce back. So, why I'm asking you is,
No, no, no. I actually went bust after 50 and I'm now 62. I'm not young.
so this is this why I'm asking you this is we always think that, after a certain age, you cannot start, or you cannot, suppose I find my calling at 40, people feel like now it's too late. Now it's too late for me.
If you are driven by that passion that is coming from your heart, you can do this even at 80. You have to understand this fundamentally, that it is your personal calling, and that is extremely addictive to the people around. If it is really true, there is
Okay,
no
that is very
age.
interesting. That is very
There is no
interesting
age.
what you said. It is addictive to people around you. That is,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah, that is
absolutely,
very interesting. So
absolutely.
that's what I was asked. So you are 50, and then you realize that, okay, now
I went bust.
yeah,
I went bust at 50.
I've
Yes.
gone bust at 50. So what was your next step after that? What did you do after that to bounce back?
Nothing, as I said, my passion was strong enough for the same investors to support me, telling, "Hey, that was to do with global financial crisis. Continue on, son. Let's support you."
Okay.
I have had investors who have been with me for the past 20 years.
But now, what if somebody does not have that advantage? Suppose somebody is
No, there is nothing like what if somebody,
not advantage. If I don't, suppose I put my own money, I don't have anybody supporting my business or investing in it, and that time it fails. Then what are my options to recover?
you can always go to somebody. If you, that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you're real, if that what you have is can deliver, can add value to somebody, is relevant,
Mm.
and it is coming from within, people will throw money at you. Have no worry about that. But you will get 10 rejects before you find that one gold.
True. That is true.
You know, selling to an investor, or making not selling to an investor, sorry, making an investor buy
Hmm. Hmm.
is a discourse I can give you on its own. It's a
Hmm.
very, very difficult phase in an entrepreneur's journey,
Hmm.
because an entrepreneur likes to think whatever he has got is the best idea in the world. But then the investor who's actually got the money has got other views, has got other possibilities. He's also looking for a quick buck.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, it's that process is not very easy.
Correct.
The process is not very easy. And then once you get somebody else's money, that's where the challenge starts. You see, when you are putting your own money, like in your case, you are the ultimate boss.
Hmm.
But when you've taken somebody's money, you're the ultimate servant. There's no ifs or buts about it.
True.
There's only one golden rule. The guy with the gold rules.
Correct. Correct. Agree with
Huh?
that.
Right? So now you would have told that guy, "I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that." Then you'll be held responsible.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's not an easy pair of shoes to fill.
Yeah, that is hard. Definitely. No doubt about that. So this is again an important message that, parents or children themselves or even educators should know that just because somebody is putting money in a business doesn't make you a rich man.
No. What they have done is they have identified their pound of flesh, and they're sharpening their knives.
Right. You're right.
I'm not being a pessimist here. I'm finding humor in this. I'm
Yeah.
finding
Yeah.
humor in this, right? Because you see, let's look at the life of an investment banker. Okay, this is the guy who gives you money. His purpose in life is to make money for somebody else.
Correct. Hmm.
Otherwise, he'll get axed. He's got to remain relevant to the people with money.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
But he will be very hard. I mean, everybody is doing their job in this ecosystem.
Hmm.
So you have to, but when your call comes from the heart,
Mhm.
you get the right kind of investors coming in.
I'm pretty sure that,
That's
yes.
in my learnings of these so many decades. ultimately it boils down to that word passion. It should be the calling of the heart. You must have something that you are doing with a purpose to deliver a change, to be relevant, to add value, and then you got the ability to explain what it is. And that explanation should come from the heart.
So I have a couple of more questions. The other question that I have is, how do you, as a leader or as somebody who owns a business, how do I help my team or the people who are employed under me stay motivated and stay, like you said, relevant? And how do I make sure that they don't keep bouncing off from my job to job? That's very common nowadays. You train them, you spend time.
Absolutely. You see, if you don't give them an environment
Hmm, hmm,
for them to be innovative, they will lose interest. It's not about money. Okay. Money is hygiene factor.
hmm, hmm.
Okay. But if you make the job sufficiently stimulating by encouraging them to improvise, innovate, add value, and recognize that, and then you make sure that it is happening within that overarching environment where you're bringing in a global change,
Hmm, hmm.
the team generally will be with you.
Okay. Okay.
Now, in this game, you use one very interesting word there as the owner of the business. My apologies, I'm not the owner of the business. I mean, I'm the founder. Founder is different than ownership.
Ownership, right.
As the founder of the business, what I have to also make sure is the collective wealth of the team that is delivering this also continuously improves.
Hmm, hmm.
And so it should be a win-win for everybody.
Okay. Makes sense.
Right?
And
But you've got to lead from the front. You see, the worst thing that happens is you cannot take anything for granted, and you cannot say, oh, it's an autopilot. There is nothing in autopilot except a plane.
hmm.
Life requires continuous hands on the steering wheel.
Can you tell us some habits that you have developed over your years that have helped you, one, find success, two, overcome failure? What are some habits that have really, really helped you?
Fundamentally, I think I read.
Reading, right? Hmm.
Absolutely. I read. I read about failures more than read about successes. You see, if you try to understand why something did not work,
Hmm.
it's a better way to come up with a solution that's different.
Hmm.
If you
Hmm.
just try to impersonate a success, that person was success because of so many things that were in line. Your world is different,
Hmm.
but there is a lot of commonality. I'll give a simple analogy here. If you are given three photographs and you were asked to choose the best,
Hmm.
will it be quick? Or if you're given three photographs and you are asked to choose the worst, will it be quick?
I think best will take more time.
Huh?
I think to choose either would take some time. Don't you think so?
No, to say what is not good.
That is easier.
That's easier. That's
That's
what I'm telling.
easier.
So you you have to learn from the negatives while keeping a very positive attitude.
Hmm.
Right? That is the essence of it.
What are some common mistakes entrepreneurs are making today? Young entrepreneurs are making today.
They are not thinking big enough. They
Okay.
think an app is the end goal of a life. No, it is what change the app can deliver, what is the ecosystem that can be changed. So anything that you do, you have to look at it from uh, the existing, the value chain, the ecosystem perspective. Okay. If you don't really focus on the bigger picture, what else can the app do? Your app can be easily replicated
Hmm.
by thinking value chain. What do I mean by value chain? From one end to the other.
Hmm.
And then you think about the ecosystem. How many different value chains can be adopted using your solution? You are building moats or barriers for others to come in.
Hmm.
So that's a very important strategic thinking is the ecosystem mindset.
Do you think we are in a world today where it is easier to start a business, or is it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Starting a business is the most easiest thing. Coming up with the right idea is probably 10% or 15% of the solving the problem. 85% comes down to the execution.
Hmm. And are we in a better place to execute our plans faster?
Absolutely, absolutely. See, the world is a very connected place. The market is a global market. Everybody is trying to squeeze as much as possible on in 24 hours. So
Hmm.
decision making is very fast.
Hmm.
So on and so forth. Somebody I was reading somewhere. The moment you go to a investment banker, to the time you actually get the term sheet, thanks to COVID, has now collapsed to 9 days. It was 9 months earlier. So
Wow.
it's definitely a better place to do.
And I want one parting thought that you would probably give parents. You have said this, you've spoken about this a lot, but a parting thought for parents and teachers to actually help children become leaders or to become innovators in whatever field, whether they are starting a business or whether they're working in a company or however it is. Some parting thoughts for them, for parents and teachers to help them achieve this.
Very, very simple, Nupur. Please focus on the strengths of the child. Don't be under the myth that if you prop their weaknesses, the strengths will automatically grow.
Hmm.
The tree of strength requires as much care as the tree of weakness.
True. True.
Okay? But the tree of strength can bear you fruits. The tree of weakness will not bear you fruits.
That is that is very necessary. I think yeah, I think that's very important. So thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking to you, and I'm so happy that we got to talk today.
Look, God bless you. God bless you. I mean, I have not spoken like this before, so it was something new for me too.
So I'm really happy we had this conversation. We'll be editing this video soon. I'll share it with you. You can give me
Please,
feedback about me also.
please. You seem to have some natural talents, and
Thank
you
you.
have to work on these.
Yes, I will remember that. Work on my strengths.
That's it. That's the
I will
key
definitely.
thing.
Yes, I will remember that. And thank you
God
so
bless.
much. Thank you so much. I really hope we do one segment on investment because that's something which even interests me. So I'm going to pester you for that
At some time. Yeah. Okay.
sometime soon, hopefully. All right, sir. Thank you so much. You please have a good day. And I will
Thank you.
share this with you very soon.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
God bless.